Let's be innovative. Let's challenge a norm. Let's raise the bar. Let's be the elite.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by Butt Kicker, are ready to race.
So far, so dominant for Phil Kraus. Phil Kraus has been an absolute lightning rod throughout the campaign, but things have slowed down a little bit with the stretch through August. Back-to-back third-place finishes for your points leader, but so far, it's been a busy time for drivers who have made their way to Twin Ring Motegi. Earlier this week, his Speedway Series ended up having back-to-back battles all throughout the field, and especially for the race win. What will be the case tonight? As this evening, it is the Lionheart Racing Series in its IndyCar Series' turn for the HyperX Twin Ring 200. Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's coverage of the Lionheart Racing Series powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra comfortable on the gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For information on HyperX products, visit HyperX.com. My name's Justin Prince. Along some of the booth tonight is Nolan Rempel here on RaceSpot TV and ESTV as we get ready to go racing here in Japan. Let's dive into our butt kicker pre-race show as we get ready to see how drivers fare out in back-to-back races at Twin Ring Motegi. First things first, though, it's the Oval, Nolan. And it has been a type of racetrack. A lot of things can happen. But with these drivers, it's been a busy summer stretch. That stretch comes to an end tonight.
It absolutely will, and you couldn't ask for a better track for that summer stretch to come to a close than here at the Twin Ring Motegi. This is one of those tracks that I honestly feel is criminally underused on the iRacing service, and I am so glad that it is finally getting the love it deserves with the Lionheart IndyCar Series. We saw the Speedway Series have one eventful race here on Monday night. Looking to see what these guys will be able to put together for the IndyCar Series proper on this Wednesday night as we get set to go racing in Japan.
Let's take a look at the schedule presented by NLR. As we mentioned, back-to-back races in the midst of the stretch. It started at Road America, then at Michigan Worldwide Technology Raceway, also known as Gateway, and of course Motegi. But back-to-back races here in Japan. Keep in mind the next race on the schedule, too, Nolan, is the road course layout for Twin Ring Motegi. It's going to be an interesting stretch all the way to the championship for the Triple Crown Double Points Paying race at Auto Club.
It certainly will, and even the road course in of its own right is one of the more unique tracks you can find out there, especially since it's one of those very few road courses that while it shares its facilities with that of an oval, it's not a oval like you might see at tracks like Daytona International Speedway, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, or Charlotte Motor Speedway. It is very much its own track, but it actually circles underneath the oval, particularly on the back straightaway and in turn number 1. So we're going to be seeing this oval stretching over top of that road course for this 1.5 mile oval track today as we get set to go race for the final time here in August. And obviously after that road course, we'll be kicking it back stateside to the Barber Motorsports Park, Milwaukee Mile, as well as Kansas Speedway before we have one final race across the pond over in Phillip Island, wrapping it up all the way in Fontana, California at the Auto Club Speedway come December.
Speaking of Phillip has been dominant when it comes to our driver standings, presented by Butt Kicker. The advantage, almost 2 full races with the double point factored in for the finale. He's done everything he's needed to do with 9 victories, but it was Adam Blocker, remember, who picked up his 3rd victory last time out after a very slow start with 7 top 10s. He's up inside the top 5 of the point standings. Things are tight, mind you, though, Nolan. If you look second all the way back to as far as about 9th, those drivers separated by about 100 points or so, nearly.
And of course, for 2nd through 9th, it is still going to be an incredibly tight points battle throughout the remainder of this season. But as you mentioned, Philip Krause has been on an absolute tear, clear by almost 400 points of his own right. The only driver to have hit 4 digits of the points so far individually all season long. And with him currently setting the fastest time over practice as well, he looks set to continue to extend that points lead as we exit the first round of the Twin Ring Motegi doubleheader, oval then the road course. I have to say, I think this championship at the moment, it's Krause's to lose.
Indeed, it's been very dominant for him, but the team standings presented by HyperX. Let's take a look at those. Private label Team Hype, in turn, has been able to pull away by almost making more than 300 points over Power Slide Adrenaline, and Synergy Motorsports Silver has jumped up to 3rd to break away a little bit from Power Slide Ignition, trying to hold off Madworks Motorsports amongst the top 5. Ascari Autosport and Graphics LPM also up there. Team standings entering today. Private label Team Hype trying to go back-to-back for that team title with the progression they've had this season. Let's take a look at the rookie standings, though, presented by Butt Kicker, and talk a little bit about those rookies. The rookies, a majority of them, Nolan, your top runners in the overall standings. It's been a stellar rookie class, to say the least.
And in fact, 3 of the rookie standings that are the top 3 for these rookies here, they're also the top 3 of the overall point standings, with, of course, Philip Krause, as mentioned before, leading the way from Alexander Van de Sent and Robert Malechka, excuse me on that one, at 637 points. It is still very tight for that 2nd place in the rookie standings. You're going to have to keep one eye on that as that gets set to develop, but keep an eye on 6th place as well. Mitchell Riggs and Matthias Kraus only separated by 10 points as well in their own right in that fight for 6th.
It's getting intriguing indeed for the rookie standings presented by Butt Kicker. Let's take a look at your series details presented by GSI. Custom fixed setups utilized in this series for the Dallara IR18 are built by Andrew Kinsella, as drivers are competing for cash and prizes worth $10,600. As mentioned, the Triple Crown, Pocono, Indy, and Auto Club rounding out the campaign for 500 big miles. And of course, Adam Blocker slipping back a bit this season, as we've talked about, with just the 7 top 5s and top 10s on the campaign compared to his championship domination as the Lionheart King. But let's take a look now at your event details presented by Moser Racing. Tonight could be an intriguing one, with the month of August coming to a close with the 4th race on the bounce. It's important to note the last 2 years have seen the winner start in 3rd spot, Nolan.
And no doubt that means that the driver in 3rd might have the best shot of winning tonight's race as well. When it comes to drafting, the one place you don't want to be is up in the lead. How many times have we seen that in these Dallara IR18s with it coming down to a slingshot pass over on the last lap? That driver inside line on the 3rd row might very well have a shot on being able to see if he can make his way up and score themselves a race win here tonight. It's also worth noting throughout the run that Twin Motegi has had in the Lionheart IndyCar series, there has never been a repeat win, and consider we have a rookie currently leading the practice boards. I have a feeling we're not going to be seeing that trend broken anytime soon.
Funnily enough, a rookie won last year too, Henry Bennett, when it comes to Lionheart competition back in season 9. Bennett we haven't seen run a full-time schedule though this campaign, so a chance that trend indeed continues depending on how things play out here tonight. That's a look at your event details presented by Moser Racing. Talked a little bit about the practice. These drivers have much different weather conditions compared to those who competed in Speedway Series competition in the DW12 earlier this week. It was a late afternoon race for that event. It's early morning for this one. How about prior to 7 in the morning? With the track temperatures of cool and brisk, 21 degrees Celsius, air temp 23 at the track temperature. A lot of grip, but it can get hotter and expected to get hotter as this race goes on tonight.
So far, those winds are looking pretty calm as well, only about 5 kilometers an hour, blowing off towards the south, but obviously that also has the potential to pick on up as this day progresses along, so these are all going to be factors to keep an eye on, but especially that track temperature. The further we get into tonight's race, the hotter that temperature can rise, and it has not been uncommon at some points on oval tracks like this to see that temperature climb by over 20 degrees with the drop of the green flag to the checkered, especially if it starts in the early morning. I have a feeling that could very well be one of the deciding factors, seeing how drivers are going to adapt to an ever-changing track surface from start to finish of this 200-mile race.
Drivers finishing up final practice. Philip Kraus leading all drivers in practice, 27.163. Then Stefan Larkamp with the 27.185. Matt Taylor, Robert Wenchka third. Kite Bombers back, rounding up the top 5 in tonight's practice session. Checker flag waving, drivers getting ready for 5 minutes of solo qualifying. 2 laps coming up on the board with 29 entrants currently here at Twin Motegi on iRacing. How will these drivers fare out? We're about to find out, and track position is critical here tonight, Nolan. Aero wash can be very huge when it comes to this racetrack. Qualifying position, extremely important.
A lot of ovals that feature this Dallara IR18 will see a lot of draft being played, and while that is the case here as well, it's only going to be down the straights, and it's going to be more struggling throughout that dirty air when it comes to these corners, which is why, as you mentioned, qualifying position very much key. And if you want to make up spots, you got to do it early on. The more you get deeper into these runs, the more these tires degrade, the harder and harder it is going to be to make a move, stick up the inside, and sooner or later, it's going to be that outside lane where you want to go if you want to try to make moves, as time and time again we've seen passes completed from the outside lane as well as defended the gates from the outside lane. On board with AJ Musselman as he runs down through turns 3 and 4. He's going to pick up his first lap here in just a few moments.
Improved his qualifying performances as the campaign has continued on here. See how Musselman plays this qualifying session, running at 208 miles per hour. Now, the major thing, too, is going to be how these drivers push further along as this session progresses. We've already seen at least a couple drivers trying a bit of fuel burning, try and get a lighter race car, maybe dial things up for the second time around with this tighter racetrack. Or Musselman can lock up the brakes before he crosses the line the first time.
was not happy with the run up to that second lap. He's going to jam on the binders and most likely try to go at it again. Clearly was not happy at all, but as long as he didn't cross the line for that second lap, he will still get to be able to have that full second run. On board now with Jacob Oster. You see him downshifting into the fourth gear. We saw this as well in the Speedway Series because turns 3 and 4 so much tighter than turns 1 and 2, which honestly, it kind of makes me want to call this track a bit more of an updated and a much wider version of the Darlington Raceway in that regard, backstage side.
This egg-shaped oval, flat banking though at about 10 degrees. Jacob Oster in his series debut tonight. When it comes to IndyCar Series competition, the luck hasn't been there in Speedway Series action, but the speed has been seen. A 27-1 gets him to the top of the board so far in qualifying.
But not by much, only 0.003 of a second, as he is going to be having himself a solid run and make that just a little bit more now as he promotes himself up by about a quarter now of a tenth. On board with Adriano Pinero as he will exit pit road and make his qualifying efforts here as he powers down that back straightaway in the run down to turn numbers 3 and 4, taking a very wide exit, trying to dime it off that corner, get the lead up onto the front straightaway, pushes right up to the outside wall, 200 miles an hour plus as he hits start finish. Is going to keep that foot pinned almost the entire way through 1 and 2 down the backstretch.
Harold's been one of the top qualifiers throughout this campaign. Keep in mind, very lightning fast has been that 56. Started on the pole twice, in fact. Tied for second most poles in this series. Only 25th in point standings with 13 starts entering tonight. Where will Pinero be up on the board after lap 1? 27.199. And it looks like Pinero only going to record the one lap. About 90 seconds left in the session. Philip Kraus going to be able to build up his first lap this time around. He, Alexander Van de Sant, Connor Harrington, amongst those yet to set times worth note.
Kraus had a 1.63 in the 27-second bracket for his fastest practice lap. It's 27.199 for qualifying. He has got to improve. He wants to make it up to pole position, but he would have to best his practice lap as well, as currently Jacob Oster faster by 3,000 in his practice lap, and Kraus will abandon his second lap. Connor Harrington will be crossing the line this time around. That was for his first lap. He'll also be slowing it down. He'll log a 27.276. That is only good enough for 17th place on the boards.
That's not good for Harrington, to say the very least. Robert Malechko, the third, just finishing up his qualifying run currently. One more driver likely to set a time and will setting a time. The 96, one of those drivers who's been quick in qualifying with the pole this season. And Van de Sant be able to start up towards the front again. The benchmark, 27.16. This time around, a 27.3. That is not good, as Malechko the third puts in some warm-up laps. That rounds out all drivers who could set lap times. Jason Brophy from private label Team Hype and EOL tonight. Lana Kalisto not coming out to the racetrack to set a qualifying time. So all 29 drivers just about all set to go racing here tonight from Japan. Should be an exciting one. 130 laps, 200 miles up on the docket. Let's find out how we will start here tonight from Japan. Race 1 in the IndyCar Series for Jacob Oster sees the number 82 start on the pole for Factory Back Motorsports. Robert Malechko III, just a few 100s back, will start in second. Matt Taylor starts in third with Brian Beard, Matt Houston, and Adriano Pinero, your top 6. 1,000 of a second back from him is Philip Kraus. Alongside him is AJ Musselman, backing up that qualifying improvement this season. Kite Bombers back starts in 9th. Andrew Marquez, the top 10. Joshua Chin back in the field in the purple machine. Starts in 11th with Mike Rigney in 12th. Stefano Arkamp starts 13th alongside Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Kel Bensi, and Jay Brandt, the top 16. Connor Harrington starts in 17th. Tony Schowen back in the 18th spot. 19th goes to Mitchell Riggs with Joe Branch in 20th. Tyler Graf, your winner from the Speedway Series. Back-to-back, in fact, in Speedway Series competition, in 21st, though, in qualifying here. Tyus Cross starts 22nd. Adam Frazier and Andrew Kinsella's fuel burn did not work out at 24th. That's where the 41 ends up. Alex Gouillon in 25th. Alexander Van de Sant. Paul Jenkins, the last drivers to set times. Drivers who didn't set them, Lana Kalisto, and an EOL for the number 88 of Jason Brophy. top to bottom of your butt kicker starting grid for tonight's section. Let's take a look at some of your featured onboard cameras for this evening's action. As drivers make their way to the grid, let's take a look at the Graphics Esports onboard camera. Tyler Grau carrying that onboard. Graphics Esports, world-class design for the real world to virtual. Visit graphicsesports.com. With the Next Level Racing onboard camera, it's Paul Jenkins. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com. The Moser Racing onboard goes to AJ Musselman, redefining sim racing. Go further, go faster with Moser Racing. Visit moserracing.com. And the HyperX onboard goes to Adam Frazier. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game. 29 entrants for tonight's section from iRacing's virtual Twin Marine Motegi. Nolan, as we get ready to go, your keys to victory tonight if you want to win for Japan.
It's going to be all about surviving that early race chaos. You have to make sure that that car is in one piece so you can be able to actually make those moves later on. You mentioned earlier that the guy in the inside lane in third place has been the consistent winner for the last few seasons when they've come here. Look out then for Matt Taylor. Trent say he's going to be in victory lane tonight.
We'll see if he lives up to that. He was one of the contenders in Speedway Series competition. And it's going to be an interesting one for the rookie, Jacob Oster, in his series debut. Already screaming for joy. Can he back up the pace he showcased at times in Speedway? We're about to find out. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart. And this is the start of the IndyCar series for its HyperX Twin Ring 200. The pace car is off. Green flag is up. We're underway from Japan. And a clean start for Jacob Oster up at the front. Matt Taylor up to the third line, holds on to third. Adriano Pinheiro tries to jump up a couple spots, can't do so with Brian Beard up to fourth.
Still fanning out, 2, almost 3 wide, deeper in the field as we power off of turn number 2, down the back straightaway for the second time tonight. And already Oster with an almost half a second lead, up by 4/10, and dropping back is Matt Taylor as he tries to maintain some positions. Off of turn number 4 on the inside lane, you had just seen Brian Beard get up and pass Matt Hudson as we blaze it back down into turn number 1.
Something happened to Tyler Graf on the opening lap. The 98, your winner from Speedway Series competition. A broken axle already. Contact down the middle of the backstretch.
And that saw him slam into the inside concrete barrier hard, destroying his race car. It was a contact with Andrew Kinsella, the number 41, that sent that car slamming into the inside barrier. Looks like it's already an early night then for Tyler Graf.
So we will not have a carryover for the 2P for this week's competition. Looking over towards the heart of the pack, we're looking towards Andrew Kinsella, who is up 5 despite the contact. And a drive-through penalty just given to Andrew Kinsella's car. Mike Kinsella. That it will bring Andrew Kinsella's 41 to the pit lane. We take a look at Mike Rigney bounds for 14. Here's Kinsella now.
That penalty was handed out when he was in 3 and 4 last time by. Obviously had no time to get down to serve that last lap through, but I would be surprised if he didn't come on in this time around as we ride on board with the Power Slide Adrenaline number 41 down the back straightaway. Will be pitted in this time by. It looks like he might be trying to commit to that one. A bit slower through 3 and 4. On the binders, on the apron. He's coming to pit road to serve that drive-through penalty. It's going to be a rough ride and an uphill battle for Andrew Kinsella. Still got a relatively clean race car, though. It doesn't look like that damage to the side pod affected him all that much.
Jacob Oster has already broken away from the draft of the 8 and the 91, though. Back and forth battling between these two. Seeing Jacob Oster pull away by almost a second and a half so far, Nolan. Taylor trying to finally break away, though, from Lechka to the third.
Malichka trying to run him down while simultaneously trying to play some defense against Adriano Pinheiro, who is still trying to reel in a podium position right behind the number 56 car. So this fight for the podium positions really started to spread out in a big hurry. And you can see very processional already throughout this field. That one car went on the inside. That was Kinsella just on pit exit after serving his driver penalty. Now one lap down. It's all going on in the back of the field, though, where everything is still nice and tight, with some drivers still attempting to make moves. But I mentioned you had to make those spots up in the first few laps, and you're not going to be able to get them done later on. A lot of these drivers now finding out the hard way as Benke looks at the inside of Riggs.
Is he trying to find some clean air on the bottom? But that top line, the preferred groove in some circumstances, Riggs showcasing that, and that's the tough balancing act of tonight. We've seen the trend with the IR18 here. Clean air is your friend. Ulster with that clean air, showcasing that big time up at the front to pull away the others in the aero wash, not having an easy time to make passes compared to the DW12.
I remember that DW12 was always so great when it came to trying to make slingshot overtakes down the front straightaway. In fact, wasn't it, I believe, a record broken at the Pocono Raceway when that car had its first race there, as AJ Musselman now tries to feel his way around Andrew Marquez. These IR18s, a much more difficult challenge to overtake with them around the ovals, but especially on more flatter ovals like this, where dirty air has so much more of a hand to play when you're constantly on the binders. Philip Kraus slowly trying to climb his way through the order. He started in 7th, just made no overtake on Matt Huston for 6th, but Huston get with the crossover down the back straightaway, trying to battle back in the 3. Does look like he's going to get that one. Kraus is up to P6.
Houston, you're referring to, indeed, trying to get that position back, not able to do so. Give credit, though, to the 66. It's one of the best qualifying runs for Matt Houston on the season. Seen Houston try to stay out for points in the past. Had some struggles throughout the campaign, though. Able to get the track position for that 66 despite his several gambles. You know who's keeping consistency up compared to the Speedway race, though? The car that's right in front of them. That yellowish machine, that's Brian Beard. And Beard was a top 5 driver all race in Speedway Series competition, now for Synergy Motorsports Silver tonight. Doing well to start as he's now under attack quickly.
And as I predicted, that outside lane already reigning supreme. Philip Kraus was not even alongside when they entered turn 1, and it was clear for the spot by the time they got off of turn number 2. Beard's still going to look for that speed on the inside lane, but it's just not there anymore. You have to really work to dive it off these corners. He's already lost 5th place to Kraus. He's about to lose 6th place to Houston as well, as the 66 car looks to the inside, and I think Brian Beard might just be able to hang on to that spot from the top shelf. It's going to be rough, though. The 6-6 pushing up from the bottom. Can't go up too far. And Brian Beard hangs on to 6th place, but with how much Houston is attacking him, I don't think he's going to hang on for very long at this rate.
Oh, contact. Houston hits the back in a Beard. Houston forced to check up and slides up the track. Houston has lost part of his front wing potentially. See if that affects Houston long runner if he has to come in now in that 66.
And he has indeed lost the left portion of that front wing. Doesn't look to be too bad. That's a simple nose cone change, so no real lasting damage. Problem is, he's going to be so much slower throughout the corners. Might be a little helped out on straight line speed, but obviously he's going to slow that much more down in the corners. Here's a look for the air on the race spot replay, as right there gets into the back and the gearbox of Matt Beard, who I can tell you right now, he is very, very lucky, Brian Beard, that he did not get wiped out by Houston, who just lost out to 7th place to Andrew Marquez.
Houston might have to come in with that wing damage. He's already dropped back behind Marquez. And now we have seen the top 3 fully separate out. Here is Houston. And Nolan, when you lose that downforce, you can struggle to rotate. And we're seeing Houston struggle to get to the bottom now.
He is running consistently about half a second a lap slower than he was with that front wing on, and on an oval, half a second a lap is absolutely detrimental. Wouldn't be such a big deal on a road course, but that is not a time loss that you can sustain when it comes to oval racing. As Andrew Kinsella, a lap car, is about to unlap himself here. Oh, Houston's up into the outside wall. Kinsella scrambles to the bottom, and Houston's now going to lose even more time to Luis Gonzalez Nunez. I guarantee you that was Houston trying to drive it off at the corner like he still had a full front wing. He would have been able to carry that speed, but when you don't have that bit of carbon fiber on your race car, you have to take that into account, and he is learning that the hard way, as Connor Harrington will get by him for 9th.
Houston not able to find his way down to the pit lane quite yet. Really arrow washing up this racetrack. AJ Musselman in the next car back already. Kite Bomber's back, looking to gain time. Joshua Chin in that train. Speaking of some of the battling though, behind them some of the Ascari Autosport machines trying to make some passes. This is on Caleb Bensi, trying to battle it out for 17th. Can't clear.
But Bensi can't make the pass either because he's got Tony Schoen just up the road in his number 31 car. So it's a tough run for Bensi at the moment because right when he would have the run to get clear of Mitchell Riggs, he's getting held up by a car directly in front of him. Now he's clear of Riggs. He immediately swaps to the inside and will dive to the inside of Tony Schoen into turn number 1. On board with Mitchell Riggs as he flies through turns 1 and 2. It's a big gaggle of cars right up the road as you've also got a slowing Matt Houston going to get in the way and prevent Bensi from being able to properly mount an assault on Tony Schoen for 16th.
Tony Schoen indeed. Munstall's getting by. Matt Houston's coming in. The 66 to the pit lane. That opens up the door for some of the other battles. Ariano Sport Machine not able to take a peek. Bensi trying to take a peek though. Now this is for 15th. Bensi with the slider. Able to complete the job as Schoen gives him a bit of a break. Coming off the corner nearly to the wall.
Rough ride there for Tony Schoen as he just tracked out way too aggressively. Riggs will take full advantage of that. Say thank you very much. He'll pick up 16th place, says Houston going to go a lap down while fixing that nose damage in the pits. Mitchell Riggs still trying to close on up now to Caleb Bensi just up the road. We're going to look a little bit further down the order to Mike Rigney, who is just off of the back straightaway now. And he is flying down, trying to catch up to Kite Bommersbach in the number 37 car as they charge to turn 3.
You see Rigney trying those different lines. That line working really well compared to the 37. Rigney now trying to move up a +1 to the bottom of turn 1 and 2. To complete the pass and has the rotation to clear on fully. That's the thing you need to do, Nolan, right? Try different lines because that will be the important thing, to be able to rotate and find that clean air you need to be able to make these passes here at this point of the run.
Worth noting, we're already over halfway over our projected fuel run, which was due to the sending drivers down to pit road at around laps 39 to 41 for the first time this evening, as still got these battles shaken up in the background. That's Alexander Van de Sande trying to look up the inside of Adam Frazier. 12 hanging strong from the 96 as Van de Sande will back out of that one. And that opens up the door for Jay Brandt, who's going to jump to the inside and try to break into the top 20.
Van de Sande trying to make it 3 wide. Frazier forced to back out of it. Okay, Brandt tries to keep his foot in, but it's Van de Sande who now has gone up 7 positions, top of the most positions gained. Jason Brophy, who is now trying to pass by Adam Frazier as well. Some of your top runners expected at least for tonight. Really trying to battle their way through the parts of attrition. That's been the expected thing. Track position critical, Nolan, here.
Van de Sande clearly trying to make sure that he can position his car in the right place. Whoa, one driver way out of control in the background. That might have been Callisto as we keep with this fight down in the turns 1 and 2. Tony Schoen trying to run down Alexander Van de Sande, but now he's got Jay Brandt pressuring from behind. But I think that really shows some of these drivers already started to struggle with these tires. You mentioned that track temperature earlier on, Justin, about how it was at about 74 degrees Fahrenheit, and that temperature now starting to slowly climb up. That's going to start having an impact pretty soon here on how these tires are going to degrade over the course of a fuel run.
Side by side, building up once again in the heart of the pack, and Tony Schoen struggling a little bit to be able to make up ground. Jay Brandt trying to make up ground him in turn. Currently 27 cars running. Those just tuning in, coming up to 104 laps to go. Pit window opens up about 15 laps time. The lead has 2 drivers who have broken away by more than 4 seconds, Nolan. Jacob Ulster and Matt Taylor, they have dominated this race, separated by 1.1 seconds. And that's the... How do you try and get yourself up towards that position right now with the way things are shaping up?
At this point, you have to almost wait for your opponent to make a mistake. I mean, these guys have been so consistent, and the only times where we've been seeing people able to make moves is when your opponents in front of them track out a bit too far because they're trying that much extra to try to stay out in front. That's how Jay Brandt just got around Tony Schoen, because Schoen again tracked too wide off turn number 2 and lost that spot down the back straightaway. Now, Schoen's trying to do the same to Brandt, apply that pressure and try to force him into a mistake along the outside line. But so far, the drivers that have been closing their way up through this field have not been making a whole lot of mistakes throughout the course of this race. And that is exactly the way they want to keep it. At the moment, if you're on a net gain in spots, I don't really see the need to really push all that hard unless you know that you're being slowed up by the guy in front of you.
Meanwhile, we talked about Jason Brophy with the EOL earlier on this race. Brophy, after that, looking to get himself now up to 20th as the biggest mover of this race. Not give it up easily, he shot it on the outside. But the main thing has been for Jason Brophy, remember, experience on the box in eNASCAR competition, that expected to heat up with the postseason coming up in the next couple weeks as well. So Brophy with a very busy schedule coming on up as he just about completes the pass down the back.
Not allowing scheduling pressures to get to him, it seems, with the Lionheart IndyCar series, as he will now secure that 20th position, as Schoen, I think, might have burned all of his stuff up in his number 31 car, as Schoen has been slipping back pretty steadily over the last few laps. He started up in 18th. He was at one point battling for 17th, now all the way back in 21st place and 19 and a half seconds behind your race leaders at that time by at the line. When this race started, he was running about low 28-second times. That has gained out to where he's sometimes running as much as 28.5s on the occasion. So he has been steadily losing some of that time throughout the course of this long green flag run. So far, by the way, longer than the first green flag run we had in the DW12s in that Speedway series on Monday night. So great start overall here on this Wednesday night IndyCar series.
Have you ever heard of Spam This House for Philip Kraus? How about the new thing that's coming into play with the domination so far of Jacob Ulster? Spam This Lobster for Jacob Ulster. You can kind of see the rhyme, but so far so good for Jacob, who hasn't been able to find a clean run for the most part in Speedway. Tonight, he's been able to keep it very clean, let's put it that way, up in the front.
Thank you very much, Has. He's been on an absolute tear. He has so far led every single lap in this race. He is not looking to let that streak end anytime soon. Off of turn number 4, you've still got these fights developing deeper in the field. This is AJ Musselman trying to close up on Mike Rigney. This is the fight for 10th place running into turns 1 and 2. And in fact, that position just swapped hands one lap prior as Rigney got up and by Musselman. I believe that would have been down the back straightaway on lap number 33. So you still got position swappings going on ever throughout this field. And in fact, there's another one. Caleb Benzie to the inside of Stefan Larkamp.
Benzie, after some of the battles earlier, starting to pick up indeed on this long run. That's where some drivers really can separate themselves, as we've seen over time. Long run kings. Some of the drivers seen about half a second of fall off so far in this run. Pit stops expected in the next few laps or so. And that's going to be the interesting part too, of who's been saving, who hasn't, Nolan. Because being able to stretch that fuel tank could be critical, since the projected window can be as late tonight as 7 to go without the draft.
I'm not sure if you can quite save enough fuel to make it a whole 7 laps of the race, but you could definitely be close. And depending on how these drivers want to game their strategy out, there might be some fuel mileage games being played here, at least on these later pit stops. And of course, you have to keep it back to the tires as well, which no doubt drivers are going to be looking to swap out when they come on down into the pits as well. So it's all of these various little factors that make me just love IndyCar racing. I mean, you've got all of the constant fluctuating strategies up and down throughout the race, especially on the ovals, because they're never really as secure and set in stone with your strategies as they are on the road courses. There's a lot more factors constantly at play with one another. Traffic being a very big one at the moment, as Matthias Kraus about to lose a spot here to Alexander Van de Sande, as the 96 looks to the inside for 17th place out of turn 4. A bit out of shape for Kraus though on corner exit. That'll give the 96 easy position into turn 1.
Turn 1 seems to be the main passing spot around the racetrack. You may have noticed, well, that interval did shrink down for a little bit. Lap traffic was a factor. Matt Houston in front of Jacob Alster did cost both Alster and Taylor a few tenths apiece into some of this traffic. No pit stops quite yet, as the window expected to open the next couple laps here. And the stat progressed now up to 17th with that pass with the 59 machine.
And look at the traffic run that Kraus got on Alexander Van der Sande that time by on the back straightaway, and that's going to be a lunge now for turn number 3, trying to pin that car to the bottom, but you've still got the 96 up top. And sure enough, Van der Sande able to pull around the outside lane. Kraus just not able to do anything. That was an absolutely perfect run that he had there down that back straightaway. Fully alongside by 1 and 2, but there's just no speed anymore if you're running the very tight line from the bottom, and you can't risk push it up because you're never quite sure if your opponent's going to exit shallow to try and pinch you down. First green flag pit stop scheduled on the day. It's one for Taylor as he is down and in for service.
Gonzalez Nunez also jumping in the previous time around, so the window indeed is open. Second place, though, is Taylor. Taylor, one of the carries over from contention and Speedway. Jacob Alster already driving his way around now with a 4-second advantage over Robert Moachka to the third. So Jacob Alster trying to stretch this a little bit further this window. More pit stops expected. Beard coming in. Mitchell Riggs with the indication as well.
And as is, in fact, the 37 car. So one after another, drivers are slowly cycling their way into pit road. Alster, though, has continued to stay out, as a close call there for Jacob Alster as he locks it up and nearly goes into the tire bundles as well. That marks the start of pit road. He's able to get himself gathered down, though, and he is going to be down and into pit road. Definitely not wanting to take the chances. He's going to be undercut here, as Malechka still out, and he will now inherit the race lead for a lap, and no doubt we're going to be seeing that 91 car in within the next lap or two.
Andrew Kinsella having a lengthy pit stop, had a 25-second stop to add on to his situation previously with the incident. But now the 82 off and away. Jacob Alster, 8.6 seconds up in the box, 35.6 in the lane. Matt Taylor coming around. Will the undercut work to get around the 82? No. In fact, Jacob Alster grows the advantage more so.
Jacob Alster not taking any risks on that pit entry there, that he was going to be undercut as mentioned before, and that has clearly paid off for him as he is way out in front here of Matt Taylor. So Taylor going to have to wait for the next round of pit stops if he wants to try to get something sorted. Joshua Chin, you see him down and in for serves in his number 93 Team Hype machine, as well as Malechka and Pinero both into pit road. Here comes Larkamp as well.
Chin picked up a speeding penalty, though, so the 93 is out of contention. Our first speeding penalty of the day. It's a 40-second stop and hold for the King of Chins to take him out of contention.
That's a rough penalty to get, especially on an oval like this one. And Joshua Chin going to be kicking himself over that one. It's just the first pit stop of the day. That's why a lot of drivers love to practice pit stops throughout practice. Pit speed limit here is about 50 miles an hour. He was way over that on entry into pit road. No way he was going to make that one in time. He was going at least 10 over.
Lengthy stop and turn for the 93 takes him out of contention, put him to 26th place on the board. So on to that situation. Picking up more spots with the pit window, up 11 now. Alexander Van der Sande, who holds on to this battle for position. This is with Stefan Larkamp.
Stefan Larkamp looking for the inside. This is for currently 15th place up there on the racetrack, as that's going to be one raging battle. The 62 backs out from the bottom lane, though, as Alexander Van der Sande pulls around from the top shelf. Tracks up to 26 degrees Celsius from the starting temperature of 23. And now Mitchell Riggs of the 09 and 14th place under fire. Mistake through 4 gives an easy run to the 96 down the pit straight.
Van der Sande wants his spots after having a rough qualifying performance. It's worst starting positions of the season, in fact. Van der Sande is already up to 14th, nearly halfway through this pack. a lot of his abilities to make passes here. But now it's going to get interesting because traffic could start to play a bit of a factor. There's only one driver right now a lap down Nolan, but that number expected to balloon here because the leaders are catching up to the back end of 24th on back. Their respective battling here. How do you play this out if you're the leaders?
Depends on how desperate you are to maintain your race lead. Jacob Oster's got a 1.4 second gap to deal with, and he's got lap traffic between himself and Matt Taylor. So at the moment, Oster does not have to be too concerned. He can allow this fight to develop for a little bit longer in front of him. The problem more comes with the fact that that is traffic trying to get around other lap traffic. Matt Houston is 9 laps down. Joe Branch fighting to stay on the lead lap. I would expect Houston to get up and out of the way relatively quickly here. You don't want to be known as that one guy that holds up the leaders when you're over 5 laps down on the oval, no less, when there's just over a second to deal with. And sure enough, he's going to move to the top shelf, forcing Jacob Oster down to the bottom side, clears off of turn number 2. But like I said, I mean, if you're Jacob Oster, you pick him off one at a time. I mean, at the moment, nothing too much to worry about, but you want to keep one eye on those mirrors and start to get a bit more aggressive if that gap continues to shrink much more.
Next driver up for grabs to be lapped here, Joe Branch, Alex Guyon, Tony Shalin. In terms of pecking order and positions, the spots lost still is Matt Houston, minus 23. And his wing damage putting him several laps down as well as contact with the wall. Biggest mover overall is Van de Zandt. Those just jumping on in to this respective race. There is a small statistic. Well, not so much small, but pretty significant statistic that can be brought up too. The 19 machine, your points leader entering tonight, his lowest finish of the season, 3rd position. He is in 4th position and is struggling to close up the gap to Malechka the 3rd. Can Kraus find a way to keep the streak alive of finishing on the podium?
You know you've had a great season when your lowest finishing position, 16 races deep, is still on the podium. And even here, 4th place, not bad at all when you've got a almost 400-point buffer to deal with in your championship standings. But then I think about 350-ish up from 2nd place at the moment. So Philip Kraus going to continue to work his way around, running 4th place for now. Still up 3 for a qualified. He did not really have the best of qualifying runs. It was a 27.199. That was that was a few hundredths back from what his fastest practice lap was on an oval. That does make a fairly significant difference, but the Team Hype machine has definitely been having himself a solid run so far. He is sitting 5.4 seconds behind your race leaders last time by at the line, and at the moment he was the only driver not on the podium to have worked his way up into the top 5.
Car in front of him up on the track. Malechka 3rd we mentioned, though. The tough part of that, he is gaining. In terms of positions, and you can sell a not so much. Not a good day for the Lionheart Racing Series setup builder. Bad qualifying run. Drive through penalty. Lengthy pit stop with wing changes. What else can go wrong if you're the 41? A fellow RaceBot commentator, by the way.
I would say probably the one thing that could go wrong from here on out would be to actually crash out of this race, but he's still running strong, still 2 laps down. Not without the realm possibility of getting back on that lead lap, but it is, of course, going to be an uphill battle. You would have to first overtake Joshua Chin, and I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, as Joshua Chin is several seconds up the road from him. He's about the 2nd car up the train at the moment as Kinsella continues to work his way around. I'm going to be honest, I don't think the front wing change would have hindered them all that bad. I think it was that drive-through penalty that really hindered them the most, because that forced him to take on about an extra 20 seconds of time. A nose cone change only adds on about another 10.
Here we clock the wall, in fact. Bring Phil Kraus with him with the aero wash for a moment as well. So Kinsella not gelling well with this racetrack, especially with this windshield, this windscreen. That's been talked about so big when it comes to some of the aerodynamics here, when it comes to Twin Motegi with this chassis. Meanwhile, in the Jason Brophy camp, it's an 11 position gain still for Brophy, trying to find a way around Mitchell Riggs, who nearly hits the wall.
Riggs has been really flirting with that outside wall for the last several laps, and I'm just waiting for either a big crunch, and all of a sudden that 09 car is going to be either in pit road or back into the opposite wall. Brophy, though, has the run, looks to the inside, going to go for the overtake here. And so far, Jason Brophy, in his 36th start, he is going to be up to 17th place. Considering he's got himself 13 top 10s, though, I would say this has not been a race to remember so far in the Brophy camp. He has had better races, to say the very least. He has finished second twice in his Lionheart IndyCar Series career, so no doubt Jason Brophy wanting to do more, and with that one pole position and 8 top 5s on record, he absolutely has more potential. Quinton Rotegi, though, it's a very difficult racetrack. It's a driver's racetrack. Doesn't look like it. It's a lot more harder to drive this track, though, than a lot of people might suspect. So it doesn't surprise that some people happen to be struggling with it a lot more than others.
Your driver profile brought to you by Mo's Racing tonight. Brophy currently scored in 17th with that pass. Behind him, Jay Brandt. Synergy Motorsports Black. And he looks like he's trying to chomp at the bit at the different lines. There's the aero wash. And that's the tough thing. It's a guessing game at times, Nolan. Guessing game, should say, when it comes to that.
Aero wash can be by far one of the most unpredictable forces of nature when you're racing these Dallara IR18s. It's not nearly as predictable as when you're running yourself in some of the stock cars on the surface, and you even saw there Jay Brandt aero wash so bad that he was cranking that wheel so hard to get it out of the wall that he actually lost the back end. For a split second there off turn 4, was able to gather it back down, and he's still trying to run down Mitchell Riggs, who you ride on board with the gearbox up, with Jay Brandt looking to close in from behind. But it's not been a pleasant ride for Brandt as he is continuing to try to close out to Mitchell Riggs. You're almost having to battle the air around the cars more than the cars themselves at this point of the race, though.
In turn, so critical to pick the right line. Look at what's happened to the race lead, though. With some of the traffic, the gap has shrunk down to 1/10 of a second. Oster has not closed at all on the back end of Joe Branch, and Taylor's taken advantage.
Last time by, Matt Taylor was about 0.4 of a second faster than Jacob Oster. He's got to run through 3 and 4, backed it up, diamond off the corner. He's got a huge draft down the front straightaway here and into turn 1. Will this be a move and a lead change for Matt Taylor? Yes, it will. You called it at the start. Remember, Matt Taylor had to start third if he wanted to move his way up to the race lead. The trend is surely coming alive as he just made his way up into the race lead.
First lead change on track tonight, outside of the pit stops. And Jacob Oster really backing it on down, it seems. Is that the fuel strategy maybe coming into play for the 82? Remember, Oster pit 2 laps later than Taylor, yes, but it was still not as far as some of the other runs we've seen, such as what could have third earlier in terms of saving the gas to stretch to the extra 7-8 laps.
It's always one of those things to keep in mind as Matt Taylor potentially burning off a bit more gas than he realizes, and this might be a strategy call on Taylor as well. If he can get out in front and just play a good defensive game, then if he can stay out in front by the time it hit that second pit window, very real possibility that could translate into him maintaining a race lead now. We might have seen them flip-flop a bit on the strategies here. Sometimes drivers like to back off a bit in the middle portions and then push hard at the end. Sometimes it's vice versa. They want to build up as much of a gap and hope they can maintain it by the end. The problem with that latter strategy, it's always a risk on an oval. You've always got those full course yellows looming around you. Jacob Oster still dropping back, though, all throughout this run. Last lap by, he put down a 28.027. It was another 0.4 gain for Matt Taylor. He ran a 27.846.
And the question mark is it with the lower fuel maps or the gears? You see him just getting a 6, for example, on the run up to 3 and 4. Trying to utilize a lot of roll through the corner down to 163 miles an hour. Compare that to what we've seen from Matt Taylor so far. Taylor is letting it roll around the same speed, but getting back on the gas much quicker.
It's a shame we can't see the actual fuel mappings on those steering wheels. It would be an awesome thing if we could even compare that, but it's understandable why that would not be available. Obviously, people wouldn't be too pleased if they found out their fuel mapping strategy being broadcasted for the whole world to see. You can see Taylor backing it down to 3 and 4. He's taking a much wider line through there as well, which is allowing him to carry a bit more speed around that middle group of 3 and 4. That's been a very consistent line that Taylor's been running. As our friend Jacob Oster, he's been running the bottom a bit forward throughout this race. That's only hurting him on the runs on corner exit. I have a feeling that inside lane just isn't there anymore. He's going to have to change tactics if he wants to close them on in.
Some of the traffic Matt Taylor potentially may have to face soon is this battle. Mitchell Riggs currently for 19th, Frazier in 20th. Frazier has been almost running at a treadmill-like spot where he's been trying to break away from 20th, move up these spots, can't get the spot. Then IndyCar joins the fray. Where's the IndyCar, you may be wondering in this battle? Lana Kalisto is just behind the 12 machine and is trying to diamond his way around Frazier while Frazier loses the ground to try and reset.
It's almost a three-way battle then for 19th place as Mitchell Riggs still working defense. Frazier did lose a few tenths that lap, but as you mentioned, backing it up to try and reset. Oh, it's a bad run through 1 and 2, though. Heads up, Kalisto has to scramble to the low side to avoid running into the gearbox of the number 12, and he's going to try to pick up 20th now as he'll throw it into turn number 3. Frazier, though, working back on the outside lane, and he's going to pull alongside and maintains 20th at the stride. That's what Mitchell Riggs wants to see. It's allowing him to start to slowly build that gap up as Kalisto and Frazier start to battle it out behind him.
We're way past the halfway point, under 60 to go, in fact, at this point. Lead has grown up to 1.6 seconds. This race speeding along by the pit window, opening up soon. Nolan, your thoughts on how it's broken out so far? We've stayed clean and green so far.
Considering all the carnage we have seen in the Speedway series, I think the fact that we haven't had a yellow flag yet is a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one for a lot of these drivers. It makes strategy that much more easy. You run the tanks out and figure out what you're going to do later on in the race. Until then, one car exiting pit road, that was Matt Houston, who is just now leaving pit road. He is now going to find himself 12 laps down as he found himself coming on in for service on his lap number 59.
Houston picked up a speeding penalty, though, to add to his wing damage. Nunez scheduled stop. Only a 32-lap stint, however, so potentially splitting the strategy in half the rest of the way.
I would say quite possible on that one, although there's a reason why I'm not the pit strategist on this one. So who knows at this point. We'll continue to observe these trends, though. I have a feeling we might be seeing those pit strategies start to kick off here. Second half of the race, always prime time for some good old pit shenanigans.
And separating out throughout the pack, currently 21 cars are on the lead lap here at Twin Motegi. Window opening up in the next few moments or so. Let's take a quick break. Coming up to that final, potentially the final pit stop for some. It's lap 75 here for HyperX Twin Ring 200 action for the Lionheart IndyCar Series here for Twin Ring Motegi. We'll be right back.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
welcome back to tonight's action. From Twin Ring Motegi for tonight's competition, the HyperX Twin Ring Motegi. Twin Ring 200, should say. With 50 laps to go in tonight's action. Justin Prince, Nolan Rempel, as we're back here on Racepawn Team NES TV, the pit window has opened for Matt Taylor and the majority of the leaders, and this makes things interesting for the rest of the way. Taylor amongst those who cannot make it to the end from this point.
Talk about timing, coming back from that break just as the leader hit pit road. He'll be down and in for service, and not seeing any problems so far. The entry for Matt Taylor, he will be able to get those 4 fresh set of tires, top that carbon gas, and he's going to be pulling out of pit road. Likely won't even lose a lap in the process here, as I expect Malechka to potentially be the last driver in. Remember, he pitted 4 laps later than everybody else. He now runs second place, was running third prior to Matt Taylor coming on down and in for service, as Taylor is out of pit road, and we'll be seeing what he can pull together as he will get set to hold on to the race lead through this set of pit stops.
For Taylor, like we have it come down and top off towards the end of this race or come in. Final few laps overall. Brian Beard, Mike Rigney coming in. They're also out of that window to make it towards the end. Paul Jenkins, Caleb Bensey also coming in this past time around, as well as Kite Bomber's back. Oh, and a close dive. Robert Muchka third, almost to the back of Oster. Oster has saved so much, he cost himself about 2 seconds to the 91. That gap he had to him is gone.
And all this lap traffic not helping Oster's case, as he is still struggling to get around Matt Houston on the top shelf, as Houston scrapes the outside wall. Sparks fly. Malechka going to look to the inside, not seeing any damage for now on Matt Houston. That'll be something to keep an eye out, though, as Malechka looking to overtake Jacob Oster before they hit pit road. That doesn't look, they're looking to be pitting anytime soon, though. That's going to be a battle down for turn 1 as Malechka throws it in.
Ilmavich race breaking out between these two. Malechka to the third's been saving most of the race. He now leads the race on track. Jacob Oster starting to pick up the tempo a little bit, lets it roll all throughout the heart of the corner. And keep in mind, if they can go an extra couple more laps here, they will not have to top off like Taylor has to.
Mentioned at the very top of this broadcast when we were talking about that pit strategy, they would be about 7 laps short if they were to come on down at the later end of some of these pit stops. They would have to be saving fuel. It looks like Oster has been doing just that as he continues to work his way around. Now going to be set to go on to lap 44 of this stint, and he's going to be coming on down to pit road. I still don't think that's enough for him to be able to make it.
That requires potentially 2 laps of saving to make it to the end on gas. Connor Harrington came in last time as well. Matthias Kraus also made it 44. More pit stop calls over the radio. Phil Kraus amongst them. Robert Malechka third with a 1.4 second advantage over the 19 is still going. Malechka the third, looking like he's in a prime situation to make it to the end on gas. Oster still in the pit box. Just finishing up the fuel now, a 9.1 second stop.
At the moment, Malechka is rounding lap number 44. This time by 41 laps left to go. At this point, Malechka is safe to the end on fuel. So this is a big strategy, and on cue, he's in a pit road, as is Philip Kraus. So Philip Kraus is going to be in. He's also going to be good on service. At this point, if you pit and you top yourself up with about 40-ish laps of gas, you're going to have enough to make it on to the end. A lot of these guys have already been out for about 43, 44 laps. So it seems like a lot of these guys have been looking to save on this run. Matt Taylor clearly was not one of them.
Pinheiro coming on in at the same time here, though. So Pinheiro is also for sure good towards the end of this race. This is a huge play, though, for Taylor, who will now have a substantial lead over some of these drivers on the racetrack. He is the only driver, if not one of the few drivers, trying this gamble of going for an extra stop here, Nolan. How is he going to slice this out is a huge question. 5 seconds now the advantage over the fuel safe strat. Molechka the third has the net advantage over Oster and Kraus now on that strategy.
So this is going to be crucial here for Molechka, how he plays his cards out here. He has enough fuel to make it to the end. He can even push from here to the end of this race because he went 44 laps on that stint. And at the moment, there is only 40 laps left to go, coming to 39 this next time by. So he's got more than enough fuel to make it to the end. He's just got to hope that maybe the guys behind him haven't factored that in so much. You're right on board with Philip Kraus at the private label team Hype Machine as he looks set to power off of turn number 4. Down the front straightaway, he's also trying to reel in Jacob Oster in the fight for third.
That time by, Kraus lost time in fact though. It's right around the bottom of the racetrack with Oster choosing the top. And that is the huge gamble Oster played here. He wanted the advantage in the first run. He got the advantage the first run on track. Molechka the third kept in the same fuel mode and was able to take advantage of the 82 here on this strategy, at least for these two, for this window.
The gap, by the way, up to Matt Taylor has only continued to extend from the pit cycle as it's now up to 6 seconds. So Matt Taylor is still in zero fuel conservation mode. I guarantee you he is praying for a caution right now. That is the one thing that could save his race. He's not safe at the end of fuel. He has to come down a pit at least one more time for a splash and go. Meanwhile, Lionel Callisto working his way up through the field. He's plus 10 spots so far in the afternoon. He's trying to close up to Mitchell Riggs. That would put him as the first car one lap down. That 97 car on a charge of his own so far.
These drivers might need a bit of luck to be able to get that lap remembered, though. There is no Lucky Dogs, of course, Lionheart competition. But still, Callisto, after no qualifying lap set, trying to claw that time forward, uses the outside line to be able to drive himself up to Riggs. Riggs allowing him to get the clean air for the potential opportunity.
Down the back straightaway, solid run for Callisto. He'll get up and by Mitchell Riggs, but Riggs is not going to let this one go without a fight. He's going to hold the inside line, but time and time again, we have seen that inside lane just have no speed on defense, and sure enough, rinse and repeat. Callisto now plus 11 spots where he started today as he looks to continue his solid run for himself. Not the most spots gained out of anybody so far. That still belongs to Alexander Vandesen, who is plus 14 where he started at 26th.
Good solid run for the 96. Not what Vandesen might have been wanting though in points. Think about needing to claw up routes or at least keep up with consistency. Rivalries built multiple victories in HyperX victory lane with some houses. Taking a look at Philip Kraus, he has taken advantage of the traffic of Matt Houston to pass by the 82 of Oster.
That move was made on the front straightaway on lap 97 as he has continued to claw his way up. You can see Oster trying to run him down with that draft though. But Jacob Oster just has no more speed underneath him. And I can tell you right now, that is what is really causing him to struggle massively in his machine, as this track has just not gone his way. He is all the way down now to 4th place, but is still looking set to try and battle for 3rd place. You mentioned earlier in this race that Philip Kraus trying to keep that podium streak alive, as his lowest spot he would have finished so far would have been 4th if that were to sit. Well, he heard you. He's up to 3rd now, and he's looking to stay there.
Guess who they're gaining on, though? Both of them, in fact, have gained a time all of a sudden on Robert Molechka III, who lost 2/10 last time and is now struggling as well in some of the aero wash. Molechka III's gap is dropping in quickly. The 91 has backed it down on the fuel.
Might have been burning a bit of extra fuel to try to build a gap and now had to back off to conserve a little bit more, and that has started to really, really cost him. Remember, we believe this might be for the net race lead as well, assuming Matt Taylor is not safe on fuel, which at this point I think it's safe to say neither of us think that he is. He did come in 17 laps ago. Molechka only came in 9 laps ago, and Molechka, or at least was, safe on fuel. You You see Philip Kraus trying to run him down right behind as they lap Adam Frazier down in 20th place. We're about to have a fierce fight pick up here for second.
Half a second the difference. You see Kraus now picking up the aero wash, in fact, from Frazier. But Kraus has been a bit more pushy, so to speak, by a tenth a lap on average the past while or so. In fact, the past 5 laps he's been quicker by a tenth of a second, this time held up by the traffic. And that's going to be the interesting cat and mouse game. Do you try and pressurize your opponents to burn up their fuel here?
It's all about the mind games when it comes to high-speed IndyCar racing. It's the definition of high-speed games of chess at 200 miles an hour. Philip Kraus trying to still run down Malechka and still trying to, I imagine, pressure him into a mistake. We've seen it time and time again. This track is no longer suitable for passing on that inside lane unless you've got an astronomical tire advantage. So realistically, he's going to have to hope that Malechka either gets caught up by all this lap traffic up the road, or he finds himself making a mistake and potentially even taking himself out of competition. Taylor, still 8+ seconds. That gap continuing to grow. He is still not saving on fuel. Malechka struggles for second place.
That becomes the question mark, knowing the strategy call for these three and everybody else here. When does Taylor elect to say it's time to come on in to be able to push here? Because, as you've said, 2/10 of a second quicker a lap over the past 20 laps compared to this pack you're following.
It's always one of those challenging things, and at the moment, I have a feeling Taylor is trying to build up at least enough of a gap so that if he has to come down for a splash and go, he's not going to lose the positions, or he might be able to at least run something down in the last few stages. Problem is, he's going to have to build that gap out not to 8 seconds, try at least 15 to 18 if he wants to make that strategy work. He is not pulling away enough if he wants to stay out in front, and all that power sliding he's doing off these corners, not helping things at all.
That time by Jason Brophy, who picked up a speeding penalty during his pit stop. Gone by easily. They are battles building up. They will pass by Luis Gonzalez Nunez, who has come into pit, and this is what we've seen from him with 57 to go. The 14 came in. Comes in 33 laps on this stint. Now with 25 to go, Nunez coming on in and sliding into the box.
That was honestly a perfectly executed pit entry there. He's angled himself flawlessly for pit out, and you have a feeling he must have practiced that, because look at that. He's able to just rocket straight out of the pits and not have to worry about spinning up those rear tires all that much. So Nunez trying to save as much time as possible in the pits. I think he was also in the same boat as Matt Taylor, not safe to the end on field, but rather than run that tank out, he wanted to have some room to play around it in this field, so he pit extra early instead. Now he's going to be able to have a bit more time to play around with strategy here on his fuel map settings, being able to try to run down some extra spots here in these closing laps. Matt Taylor also in a pit road.
Matt Taylor from the race lead has tapped out with 22 laps to go in this race. Question mark will now be for Taylor. Can he find a way to get up to Malechka third? Kraus and Oster, the gamble hoping for a potential caution, not coming in. Now Taylor will have to make up about a full lap on the rest of the field.
Might even lose a lap here as Malechka's coming around through 1 and 2 right now. Matt Taylor down in turn 2 as well, and Taylor's going to hit the back straightaway just in time to not lose a lap. But there you see Malechka, that red and white car, way in the background. He's not the only driver coming on into pit road. Brian Beard, same story, as he will also take it to pit road in a similar boat as all these guys. Didn't have enough fuel to make it to the end after he pit way too early on that second run of green flag pit stops. At this point now, Malechka very easily has this race in the bag if he can just maintain that 0.8 of a second gap back to Philip Kraus. But as we mentioned earlier, Philip Kraus has been steadily trying to reel in Malechka over the last little while. But last time by Malechka, half a second quicker, Philip Kraus might be losing speed.
The aero wash coming in, potentially some of the fuel with a 4/10 difference. There is also Jay Brand's lap traffic between them two. That could also be a bit of a factor. They have ditched Jacob Oster with this draft though. Caleb Bensi has tapped out this time by as well from the top 10. So some drivers who were borderline not able to make those borders stick. Coming under 20 laps to go. It's been green the whole way. Not what some people may have expected for this race. Andrew Kinsella also coming out.
It's really good to see, though, because it allows all of these unique field strategies to play in. Imagine if we had ourselves a caution earlier on in this run. We probably would never have seen guys like Matt Taylor trying to go long on some of these stints and trying to make the field work. We thought this was going to be a 3-stop race at the top of this thing, but it looks like Malechka, Kraus, Ulster, and more have just turned that around and made it a 2-stop strategy. Hey, if it works, it works. They're making it work right now. Bensie's out of pit road. He's down in 23rd place, though. Now 1 lap back. We're left with 15 on the lead lap.
First spot picked up in turn for Matt Taylor, who is 24 seconds back of your race leader in Malechka. 17 laps to go this time around. Gap still 9/10 of a second. Kraus wanting some space to work to get around the traffic that you see in that background. It is not getting given, though. Jay Brandt not making things easy for Philip Kraus and allowing Malechka third in turn to break away a bit here.
See the 37 car make his trip down to pit road as Kraus continues to try to work his way up and past all of this lap traffic in front of him. It's Jay Brandt, as he mentioned, the first car lap down that he has to try to find a way through. And at the moment, Jay Brandt not making it easy, though it's not really like he's blocking the second place driver on any stretch of the means. It's just that dirty air that these Dallara I-routines kick up. It is that powerful at a track like the Twin Rim Motegi. It is such a detriment to the cars that are following, because I can guarantee you right now, if he were to just pull off and slow down, he would be at risk of losing his next position, which would be to Adam Frazier, who's a few seconds behind him.
So needs to be smart, absolutely. You know what also needs to play in terms of smartness? That grouping that's behind him. See what's happening on that pylon? Things are getting dicey. Some parts of the track, because Pinheiro on the same strat as the 91 wants to go nearly to the wall this time. Last time by trying the bottom out of 3 and 4 to pass by the 82 didn't work.
And so the weaving game begins as Jacob Oster still hangs on to third off of turn 2 to the back straightaway. Pinheiro looks for the inside, and this time no defense from Jacob Oster, though he might take that defense on corner exit. No, he does not. Pinheiro clears for third in turn number 3. Oh, but he glances the wall just barely off of 4. Give it up for Jacob Oster as he tried to make a run. But unfortunately, Pinheiro did not lose enough speed after that very, very slight brush. Oster will hang on, will have to settle for 4th place as Pinheiro starts to run away with 3rd.
I will say this, Nolan. Based on his luck in Speedway and the night and day performance here in IndyCar in terms of his performance. Oh, trouble! It's Matt Taylor. He's in the wall down the front straightaway. Taylor, significant chassis damage. This may bring out the caution as he stays up against the wall.
No yellow flag yet. He's still going fast enough that it isn't warranted. If he can try to get down to the bottom here and there's a gap, just maybe we might save this race from being brought to a yellow flag with just over 10 laps to go. Still running that outside group. Here's a replay. Oh, he just got loose and tanked it up into the outside wall. Completely unaffected. I mentioned he was trying to really work that back end, trying to kick it out, and sure enough, a small twitch is all she wrote as he slammed right into the concrete. Now he's going to find a spot to get to the inside on the back straightaway. I think that might just save us from being put under our first caution of the night.
And this is heartbreak for Taylor. No fuel saved from the 8. In the full push mode, he's back up the racetrack. Everyone forced up to the high side. Taylor tries to stay around the bottom of the circuit. Kite bombers back. Just dives to the bottom behind him. Just avoids the 8 as he cuts back to the grass. Down to the final laps in this one. Chaos starting to break out a bit as Taylor goes to the pits.
Surprised that was not a yellow flag, but he came back up the track in 3. Not that it's Taylor's fault by any stretch of the means. I mean, look at those tires. There's no way he can turn properly with that thing. You saw how much he struggled just to get down low on the back straightaway. Now he's going to have to look out for Paul Jenkins behind him in the pit row, but it looks like Jenkins will pit to his box before he'll catch up to Matt Taylor in the pit. So no yellow flag. We'll keep it green, but a heartbreak there for Matt Taylor. I guarantee you that was impatience and frustration that caused that mistake as he was overdriving that car, trying to regain all that lost time from an unneeded pit stop.
Meanwhile, Alexander Van de Sant, he has gone from the very back now to 7th position in a battle for 6th. Andrew Marquez not wanting to give this up easily, though. One of his best runs of the campaign, trying to sneak it down the straightaways, coming to 7 to go.
7 laps to go. Van de Sant trying to reel in on Marquez down the back straightaway as the weaving game begins. How many times have we seen this at tracks with longer stretches, most notably the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? But it is applicable at just about any racetrack you go to in these Indy cars, and so far, Marquez playing that weaving game to a T, but it might be all for naught as Van de Sant still that last time by, faster by about 3.5 hundredths of a second. He's mitigated the amount that Van de Sant is closing in, but he has not taken that away at all. Van de Sant up to the gearbox. He's going to get by within the next couple laps here if Marquez isn't careful.
Marquez is borderline on the fuel as well, pushing hard up off these corners. Van de Sant takes away the high line. Coming around to 5 to go this time. Van de Sant looking for a race high 6th position with the run off the corner. He's now able to get it down in towards turn 3.
Trying to gain his 20th spot on the evening. In fact, he has. You saw a lunge from Marquez as he tried to shut the door. No room, though. Van de Sant will move his way up to the 6th place. So a solid run here from that 96 car. I don't think he's going to have any complaints when this night is over, short of the fact that he could have been up here fighting for these positions from the very get-go if he had just been able to put together that qualifying run. But sometimes it's what you can do later in the run. Sometimes it's not all about qualifying, as we have seen time and time again throughout the course of the day. Coming to 3 laps to go this next time by, and still got less than a second to the race leaders.
All to say, Phil Kraus gained a few tenths on Malechka third. Malechka third has regained those few tenths back in the midst of the aero wash up towards the front. Still keep an eye on Van de Sant, who holds on to 6th position by a sizable margin now. But with 3 laps to go, we've passed the point of no return. Next flag ends the race. What a night it's been in this one. Fuel save to the max. Seemed to have been the play, it seems. And now we'll see if everyone can make it to the end. This is going to be important.
This is going to set a record for, honestly, one of the fastest IndyCar races I've ever had the pleasure of calling. It has been one of the most entertaining as well, as this has just been non-stop action from start to finish. See Van de Sant losing a position, but it is an on-track position, not a timing position. That was Caleb Benzie unlapping himself from 16th place. Van de Sant looks like he's going to let that one go. No point in fighting it out. You're pulling away from the guys behind you. You're not going to catch the people in front. Why risk it fighting the lap car?
Coming up to the white flag, this time by Robert Malechka III. Started off this race on fuel save mode from the get-go. And for the 91 machine, the fuel save paying off. 2 more corners to hold on. Malechka III looking for his 2nd victory of the season. His first came at Iowa from a 3rd place starting spot. Tonight, Malechka III from a 2nd place starting spot will pick up the victory. Checker flag is out. The HyperX Twin Wing Motegi 200 goes to Robert Malechka III.
What a run for Robert Malechka as he finds himself with a race win of the Twin Ring Motegi, as one by one drivers start to cycle their way across the line. It has been a race and a half, as this has just been an absolute pleasure of a race to commentate. I mean, you couldn't ask for a much better race than Motegi, the caution-free, with a great pit strategy, decided the outcome of this race. You love to see it, and I no doubt Malechka loves to see it as well. All that hard work and the gambles on fuel paying off.
Phil Kraus keeps up his podium streak in turn, and Adriano Pinheiro picks up a career best third spot as Molechka III gets to celebrate win number 2 of 2022 for Power Slide. First caution-free race in the history of Twin Ring Motegi for the Lionheart IndyCar Series as well tonight. A strong performance from the 91 as that brings us into our unofficial race results. iRacing's virtual Twin Ring Motegi. Brought to you by SimRace247.com. Let's take a look. Power Slide Ignition picking up the victory with Molechka III by about 0.7 of a second over Philip Kraus. Adriano Pinheiro rounds out the top 3. Jacob Oster in his debut started on the pole and led much of the way. He'll save having to come in big for the 82, drops him back to 4th. Connor Harrington quietly finishes in 5th, and it's Alexander Van de Sande after a rough qualifying performance in 6th. Andrew Marquez, Devin Larkamp, Matthias Kraus, rounding out the lead lap drivers, and AJ Musselman, 1 lap down, picks up a top 10. Jay Brandt finishes in 11th, Joe Branch in 12th. Luis Gonzalez Nunez, after an extra pit stop, does get to 13th. Adam Frazier, Brian Beard, Caleb Bensi, Kite Bombers back, Mike Rigney, Joshua Chin all a lap down, Lionel Callisto the first 2 down. Mitchell Riggs finished 23rd tonight with Alex Guyon in 22nd, while Jenkins followed by Tony Schauman, Andrew Kinsella, Jason Brophy, the drivers who take the checker. Amongst those in the DNF club, Matt Taylor, Matt Houston, Tyler Graff for tonight's action. That's a look top to bottom at tonight's running order here from iRacing's virtual Twin Ring Motegi. As that brings us into our HyperX post-race show, because the Hyper Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premium gaming gear like the legendary Ultra Comfortable, a line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows for all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit HyperX.com. Drivers currently in the midst of gathering themselves up for tonight's celebrations. But the celebrations already see one driver ready to begin. Robert Molechka III should say, picking up the victory today, getting that celebration. Got ahead of myself for a moment. Robert Molechka III, your second victory of the season. How are you feeling?
I think we're all kind of surprised that went green with how kind of easy it was to pancake the wall off 2 and 4. But nonetheless, yeah, we'll take the win, number 2 in the season, like you said. And a shame, Phil got held up a little bit. Typical Motegi, though, he probably wouldn't have done anything, but I wish he could have at least had a shot there. But all in all, a great win for us at Power Slide.
Talk us through the battle towards the end of this race as well that built up between yourself and Phil Kraus. What was the nerves like knowing you were both on the same strategy with the fuel save from the get-go? He was trying to close in, but the traffic came into play big, it seemed.
Yeah, I was kind of worried, especially with 2 cars ahead of me. If they were running different lines, just the dirty air was pretty bad to me, so it would be kind of equal to what Phil was getting. But as soon as, I think it was Chin got by a lap car, I kind of just played that gap to keep the lap car between me and Phil. And then kind of same with AJ. I knew, AJ was ahead of me, kind of running similar lines. So if I could just kind of give Phil some air, there's no way he was going to get close to me. But yeah.
Well, the next race in the campaign is back here at Twin Ring Motegi for the road course. How confident are you about the road course side of this facility?
Oh, not confident at all. If I finish top 15, I'll take it. I've only done one open race here, and it did not go well. So, yeah, honestly, just minimize the damage, and that's really the best I can do.
Congratulations once again on your second victory of the campaign, Robert.
Yep, thank you, Justin.
Robert Munchkin, third for Power, so Ignition coming away with the victory tonight. Second spot went to Philip Kraus in this one in what was an eventful one. Standing on by after what was an impressive run for Philip Kraus. Phil, your top 3 streak continues tonight. Talk us through your evening.
Yeah, Justin. It was a pretty boring night. It was pretty hard the first, 70 laps to really ever get around anyone, so we were just... Well, most of us were just playing the fuel number, trying to cut out that stop that a lot of people ended up having to take at the end, and just work our way into good track position for the end of the race. And we worked ourselves into third place after Matt had to do his final stop, and was able to get by Jacob. He got caught behind a lap car, and after that, just kind of settled for second. I was never going to get by Rob, really, with the way the dirty air is here. It's just it's so hard to pass unless you're caught in someone else's dirty air. But yeah, definitely another really strong race for the number 19 private label team Hypercar. Hoping to continue that form at the Motegi Road Course.
Let's turn the attention towards that, because this road course is an intriguing one. It goes underneath parts of the oval, in fact. How would you describe the confidence levels to be able to move your way around Twin Ring Motegi, to be able to keep up a solid streak of solid runs in the road courses this season, to say the least?
I've only run the Motegi Road Course once. Actually, I don't think I actually ran the race, but it's a decent track to lap. I definitely enjoy it more than driving around the oval, but I'm biased as a road course merchant. There should be a few decent chances around the lap for overtaking. We'll have to see how it plays out. Kinsella's road setup's usually pretty decent, so looking forward to it and hoping to have another good run there.
Thank you very much for the time, Phil. That's Philip Kraus coming away second tonight. Adriano Pinheiro on the podium for the first time in 2022. Meanwhile, Adriano, welcome to the podium. How does it feel to be on here for the first time this season?
Good night, guys. I still speak little English. I apologize for that. It's hard to answer any question. I will try to speak some words. First of all, I want to congratulate Robert on his victory and Felipe on his second place. Well, I am happy with the result. It's my first podium on the Lionheart League. My performance in the championship is not good, but I hope to improve in the next rounds, and I will try to get more podiums. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I also thanks the Lionheart League and your sponsors for the opportunity to be a member. It certainly is a great pleasure for me. I feel welcome by everyone, and finally I want to congratulate you guys on the broadcast. Good night, guys.
Thank you very much for the time, Adriano. Adriano Pinheiro, directly to the point. Nolan Rempel, your final thoughts and your points.
Holy cow, what a race for us here tonight at the Twin Ring Motegi. I did not expect coming into this race we would get something that was caution-free, especially with this being the first caution-free Motegi race in Lionheart history. But I am glad that I was here to witness it, because while it didn't have the carnage that an IndyCar race usually does, they made up for that in full by one amazing pit battle that raged all the way down to the last lap. And it was honestly just incredible to see these guys figuring out these moves, trying to figure out what was going to work where, all while trying to battle it out with each other just inches apart. You can't ask for a better IndyCar race than something like that.
An eventful one indeed, but the next race, keep in mind, is on the road course in a few weeks' time. Drivers will have a bit of a chance to get a breather until September the 14th. Motegi GP circuit in the facility at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 Pacific, in a couple weeks' time. But on that note, it's time to thank the presenting sponsors of tonight's action. Butt Kicker, first up. You're passionate about sim racing, but it almost feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Butt Kicker haptic hardware and software, easy to install, let you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, and engine red line. Tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the luxury ultra-cool, comfortable, tall line of gaming headsets. Where you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit HyperX.com. Global Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer that created the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit nextlevelracing.com. Moser Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology made from high-end materials, Moser Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane. Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls. Precision built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion, handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com. But it's not just those names, but so many more that help bring the action for Lionheart Racing Series competition. For more information, go to LionheartRacingSeries.com. But on that note, it's time to say goodbye. For my broadcast partner tonight and Nolan Rempel, for our producer and Hugo Wees, I'm Justin Prince saying so long, enjoy the rest of your evening. Congratulations to Robert Maliska III, your winner of the HyperX Twin Ring Motegi 200, here from iRacing's virtual Twin Ring Motegi.